So, a long, long time ago, actually, not that long ago, about 10 years ago, I was a single mom facing divorce with a newborn baby. It was a big surprise to me, and it sort of sent my world in a spiral because my ex husband and I had decided that I would stay home with my son until he started school. So, when we decided to separate, when he told me he was leaving, it really changed the game for me. And I suddenly realized that I would have to be the hero of my own story if I wanted to stay at home with my son. So I remember staying up late one night, watching YouTube, looking at Marie Forleo back in her real early days. And I realized that a business was really the only way I could make enough money to quit my job on my own. So I badly wanted to be my own boss and work from home so I could still live up to that promise I had made to my son and myself to be that more present mom that spent time with him and didn't spend more time with my coworkers than my son, which is something that just drove me nuts. So at that time, I was into raw food eating. My dad had actually recently passed away of cancer, and through that experience, I started eating raw. And people were always asking me, like, how do you do the wheatgrass? How do you do the smoothies? And I thought, you know what? I'm going to turn this into a business. So I started investing in programs, training, coaching, events. In fact, I even flew out to San Francisco to get certified as a raw food chef, just up in Fort Bragg. It's actually north of San Francisco. Now, it was a wonderful experience, but I spent $20,000 getting certified in a business that wasn't even going to be profitable. Very sadly. Let me go back here. The experts, when my business wasn't making money, the experts and gurus that I was consuming, they told me I needed to get featured in the media, start a podcast, build an audience, do more, hustle more. Recipe for disaster. You can see that I did all this. I'm still on YouTube blending smoothies on national TV. I literally followed all the steps. I became Wonder Woman motivated. I invested a ton of money. I did everything by the books. As I already mentioned, became a health coach and certified raw food chef. I took a zillion marketing courses. When the raw food coach wasn't enough on its own, I actually enrolled in the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, which I think was another $6,000 to get certified as a health coach. I still didn't have the recipe for making money. I worked during the day at my day job. I marketed at night to get my business going, and I held raw food classes on the weekend. I was exhausted. Now, some wonderful things did come out of the business. I realized my flair for business. I loved leading the classes. I loved having my own business, and we did build a strong community. I had monthly potlucks with over 50 people. We had classes that were packed and detox programs that people participated in. But I had a real secret that I wasn't proud of. I was hustling like there was no tomorrow. My dark secret was that I was $33,000 in business debt. Plus, after the divorce, I had had some savings and I had already spent those $20,000 in my personal savings. So, in total, I'd invested over $50,000 in this business. This is me actually doing a class in my living room. I'm showing them how to make almond milk right there. I had soaked the nuts, and it's a fun recipe. Actually, it tastes good. Anywho, I had spent so much money on this business. I followed all the right steps. I built my email list. I had lead magnets, webinars, guest writing posts, and it did nothing. I actually closed the doors of near exhaustion in 2016. As you can tell, I hung on for many years because I refused to admit defeat. But I had to get my life back. I was working, I wasn't able to meet anyone, and I wanted to get my life back. So I went back to work with a mind that said, I'm just going to be at work. And it was devastating personally. I was saying to my coworkers as a joke, oh, I'd rather work 40 hours a week for someone else rather than 80 hours a week for myself. These jokes were really masking my humiliation and shame. I felt really ashamed that I couldn't get this business thing to work because I feel like I had all the ingredients that I needed to, and I just couldn't figure out what the missing piece was. That being said, things are very different for me today. In the last 24 months, I went from being over $30,000 in debt to generating over $2 million in revenue. I also have a business that runs like a well oiled machine. I also am finally living the life that I knew deep down was possible. But when I was going through that experience, I started to feel like maybe it wasn't possible. Maybe all these other people were good at things and I just couldn't figure it out. Today, my team and I have helped people on that have been featured on Oprah, Good Morning America, Today Show, NBC, ABC, Forbes, Fortune Entrepreneur. You're going to notice something though. I have not been featured on, actually, I've been featured on Entrepreneur, but nothing else. In fact, the business that I do now is actually a relatively behind the scenes business. And that is why it is such a wonderful business to have, because you don't need to be the celebrity of your business. You just need to help people that are. So, in the last 24 months, I am living a totally different life as a result of my bold, big, bold decision to start my business and be called crazy and all that kind of stuff. And I was okay with that. I am now helping others. I am being creative and using my creative gifts. I'm also living life on my own terms. This was something that I used to think was impossible. Back in 2010, when I first started watching Marie Forleo, I did think it was possible, but I quite quickly started to feel like I was really missing a piece of it. And then I started to think, oh, this will just never work out. So we're living a much different life than we used to. This is my current partner. So after I quit the business and got my life back, I started dating again and I met my current partner. This is us in Cuba. I've also gone to Venice Beach, so I've traveled quite a bit more than was ever possible in the past. I've also been to Austin, Texas to see my mentor, Kurt Molly. This is us again in Cuba. Now, let's get real. As a business owner, it's not totally practical for me to be taking 1 and 2 week vacations all the time. So, what we often do are little mini trips. And this is also great because we have kids, right? So, it's not like we could take a 2 week vacation while the kids are supposed to be in school. So, what we often do is we'll take off on a Friday and then we'll come back on a Monday. And these little mini breaks are really fantastic for resetting the batteries, for just feeling like you're enjoying life while not taking a huge chunk of time out. So we've been to Toronto, Thousand Islands, Niagara Falls. Disclaimer. This business that I'm going to talk to you about today is definitely not a get rich quick scheme. I am not telling you to buy a laptop and move to the Bahamas and work for an hour a day on the beach. That business doesn't exist. This business does require work, but it's straightforward. So I like to say it's not easy, but it's absolutely straightforward, meaning you put in the effort and it comes back to you. Whereas with my other businesses, I put in a lot of effort and it never came back to me. So it didn't matter how hard I worked. This is a much different business model.